Hello everyone, welcome to Embodied Art Studio. My name is Shannon and I like to share beginner acrylic painting tips for everyone to learn from. And if you are starting off painting, you're probably thinking about what to buy, supplies, and today I would like to talk about the thing that you put your paints on. So what we call the thingy that we put our paints on is a palette. And today I'd specifically like to talk about palette etiquette and how we make our palette here at Embodied Art Studio. So let's get into it. So there's anything like too crazy complicated about what we use here at Embodied Art Studio for our palette. It's actually just a baking tray, wax paper, and tape. So how we make this clever contraption here is we pull out some wax paper, rip it off. I happen to do this like every day, so I'm always like, pretty proud that I can get the perfect amount on there, and tape it down on both the edges. And that's it, so that if you ever need to get like a new palette for whatever reason, all you have to do is just rip it off and do it again and throw away the wax paper. Palette etiquettes, do and don'ts. Do separate your colors on your palette. Don't squirt them on top of each other. Okay, so why we do this, if we separate our colors, we have more control when mixing the desired color. So if I wanted a red violet, I know to use most of this red and just a little bit of blue. However, if you squirt them on top of each other, you have no choice but just to mix them together and see what's gonna happen. And hopefully I get red violet, but because I did half and half, because I just guessed and don't have that control of picking it up and mixing it, I ended up with violet. And maybe you only needed a little bit of red violet, but because you're gonna add more red to this, you're gonna have a whole ton of red violet. Do mix in tight little circles. Don't spread your paint by mixing in big circles. I actually think like initially when you go to paint your palette, and I've seen my students doing this, this is actually more efficient. You get the color faster because you can mix faster and your colors blend together faster. However, even if it's more work, this is better because your paint has more volume to it in the pile, so it's going to last longer and take up less room on your palette. When you're running low on the color that you need, do put more paint on your palette and make more of it. Don't try and scrape at an empty pile of paint when you need more of it. This one like kind of seems like I'm being a little bit of like a painter parent here, but I see it all the time. I see it all the time with my students, probably because, on a lighter note, probably because you're like in flow and you're painting, and like last thing you want to do is like stop that flow and make more paint, but I promise you it's going to be worth it. Even if it was a hard color to make, you're going to need more of it. I catch myself doing it all the time. Just make more paint, make it easy on yourself so that your painting can thrive and be luscious and full of paint. The last thing I can think of, just for like really basic acrylic beginner techniques when you're first starting, is just keeping a clean brush. That has to do with palette etiquette, because if you don't clean out your brush well enough, right, you didn't really use the bottom of your bucket, and you go and you pick up blue and you want it to be blue, you know, it's not going to be blue. You might have some red in there and it might turn into a different color. So it's really important to clean out your brush. I use the bottom of my bucket and really swirl it around in there. And I take a towel and I squeeze out my bristles, and that also gets the water out of my brush too, in case you don't want extra water thinning down your paints like it did over here. All right, and those are all of my palette etiquette tips for you today. Make sure you do the best you can to use these when you first start painting. It's gonna make painting more accessible, more fun hopefully, so use them. And if you want to get more tips, if you're just starting getting into acrylic painting, follow us, follow Embodied Art Studio, and ring the bell so you get notifications when I upload new videos. That's it. I hope you guys have a beautiful day from Embodied Art Studio to you.